All right, let's talk about a topic that sounds kind of scary, but is actually your best friend in accounting: control accounts. Stick with me, and by the end of this, you'll see how they turn a total mess of data into something clean and simple. Let's jump right in. So, here's the game plan. We'll start with the why behind control accounts. Then we'll break down the two big ones: sales and purchases. We'll tackle something called a contra set-off. Don't worry, it's not as complex as it sounds. Then we'll walk through a real exam question and finish up with some key tips to avoid common mistakes. Let's get going. Okay, section 1. Why do these things even exist? I mean, really, let's think about it. Imagine you're running a big online shop. You've got customers and suppliers coming out of your ears. Invoices, payments, it's just a constant flood of paperwork. How on earth do you keep track of it all? So you're the accountant, right? Your boss walks in and says, "Hey, how much do all our customers owe us? Like right now?" Are you seriously going to sit there and add up 1,000 different accounts one by one? No way. You'd be there all week and you're bound to make a mistake. There's got to be a better way. And thankfully, there is. And this is it. This is the solution. It's called a control account. The best way to think of it is like the front cover of a huge book. Instead of reading every single page, all 1,000 of them, you just look at the summary on the front. You get one big number for what all your customers owe you and one big number for what you owe all your suppliers. It's that simple. It's the ultimate bird's eye view. So what's the point? Well, it really boils down to two things: speed and correctness. You're saving a ton of time, you can spot if something's gone wrong way faster, and it acts as a brilliant internal check to make sure all your detailed records are actually accurate. Okay, so there are really only two main types you need to know. First, the sales ledger control account. Think of this as your money owed to me summary. It bundles up all your customer accounts. Then you have the purchases ledger control account, which is your money I owe summary for all your suppliers. Let's dig into the sales ledger first. Right? Section 2. Let's zoom in on the sales ledger control account. This is all about tracking what your customers owe you. And since money owed to the business is a good thing, it's an asset. You'll hear the term trade receivables. That's exactly what this is. Okay, here's the classic T account. Don't let it scare you. The logic is super straightforward. Debit on the left, credit on the right. If customers owe you more money, it's a debit. If they owe you less, it's a credit. That's the fundamental rule. More debt on the left, less debt on the right. Let's look at what goes where. On the debit side, the customers owe more side. The big one is obviously credit sales. Makes sense, right? Now, a dishonored check, think about it. Their payment bounced, so they owe you that money again. So it goes back on the debit side. Simple. Now, on the credit side, the customers owe less side, you've got the good stuff. They paid you, great. They returned some goods, okay, they owe you less. You gave them a discount, they owe you less. See, it all follows a simple logic. Okay, here's a classic curveball. We've just said this account should have a debit balance, right? It's an asset. But what if it doesn't? What if you end up with a credit balance? Does that mean you've made a huge mistake? Well, not necessarily. This is what we call an abnormal balance, and there are perfectly good reasons for it. For instance, a customer might have just paid you too much by accident, or maybe they paid you in advance for something. In those situations, you actually owe them money back, which flips a balance. So a credit balance here isn't a sign of failure, it's a sign you need to investigate. And trust me, understanding this will really impress examiners. Okay, so we've got the hang of the sales ledger. Now let's flip the coin and look at its opposite, the purchases ledger control account. This time, it's all about tracking the money we owe to other people, our suppliers. And the difference is crystal clear. Sales ledger is an asset. It's what people owe us. Purchases ledger is a liability. It's what we owe them. One is good for our bank account, the other, not so much. So you can probably guess what's coming. The T account logic is a complete mirror image of what we just learned. This time, a credit on the right side increases what we owe. You buy something on credit? That's a credit entry. A debit on the left side decreases what we owe. You pay a supplier? That's a debit. See? Just flip the logic. And yep, you guessed it, this account can have an abnormal balance too. If you get a debit balance here, it means a supplier owes us money. How? Well, maybe we overpaid them, or we paid a deposit for an order. It's the same logic as before, just from the other side of the transaction. Okay, let's slow down for a second and talk about something called a contra set-off. This is a bit of a special case, but it comes up in exams all the time, so it's really important to get this right. It's all about what happens when one person is both your customer and your supplier. So, picture this. You run a bakery. You sell cakes to the coffee shop down the street, so they're your customer. But you also buy all your coffee beans from them, so they're also your supplier. You owe them money, and they owe you money. Instead of you both sending checks back and forth, you can just cancel out the debt against each other. That's a contra set off. No cash actually moves. Now, here is the one single golden rule you have to remember. You always use the smaller of the two amounts. So if they owe you 150 bucks and you owe them 500, you can only set off 150. You can't just wipe out the whole 500. It's always the lower number. So how does this look in our books? It's a double entry, of course. You're going to debit your purchases ledger control account. That reduces the liability, what you owe. And you're going to credit your sales ledger control account. That reduces the asset, what you're owed. The bottom line is it reduces both what you owe and what you're owed by that smaller amount we just talked about. Okay, that's enough theory for now. The only way to really get this stuff to stick is to see it in action. So let's get our hands dirty and walk through a proper exam-style question. Okay, here we go. The question is about a business owner named Shafqat. Now look at all that text. They give you a ton of information, total sales, cash sales, returns, all sorts of things. The number one rule here is don't panic. We're just going to calmly read through it and pull out the numbers we actually need one by one. First things first, before we even think about drawing a T account, we need to do our workings. Let's find our numbers. So, credit sales. The question says total sales are $150,000, but 15% was cash. So we only care about the other 85%, which comes out to $127,500. Got it? Next, sales returns. That's 20% of our credit sales, so 20% of that $127,500 number, giving us $25,500. We just keep going like this for discounts and bad debts, always checking we're using the right percentage of the right number. And finally, the contra set-off. They owe us 150, we owe them 500. What's the rule? Use the smaller amount. So 150 it is. Okay, now for the fun part. We take all those numbers from our workings and we plug them into the T account. Opening balance and our big credit sales number go on the debit side. Everything that reduces the debt, the returns, the discount, the payments, and that contra entry goes on the credit side. Now we just add them up. Total the debits, total the credits. The debit side is bigger, which is what we expect. We find the difference between the two totals, and that right there is our closing balance, our balance carried down. $36,450. Done. Awesome, we're on the home stretch. Before we wrap up, I want to give you some crucial tips for exam day. Let's go over the most common trip-ups so you can avoid them. Okay, listen up. These are the big ones. First, people always forget that control accounts are for credit transactions only. If you see cash sales in the question, it's a trap. Just ignore it. Second, mixing up discounts. Just burn this into your brain. You allow discounts to your customers, you receive discounts from your suppliers. Don't mix them up. And finally, the simple stuff. Under pressure, it's easy to put a number on the wrong side. Just take a breath and double-check your debits and credits before you move on. Now for a massive, 5-star crucial exam warning. You will almost certainly see the phrase provision for doubtful debts in a question. This is the oldest trick in the book. A provision is just an estimate, an internal guess. It is not a transaction. You must ignore it. It does not go in the control account. If you see it, just mentally cross it out. Okay, so let's boil it all down. What are the absolute key takeaways? 1. Control accounts are summaries. They make life easier and help you find errors. 2. Sales ledger is an asset, what's owed to you. Purchases ledger is a liability, what you owe. 3. Don't panic if you see an abnormal balance. There's usually a good reason for it. And most importantly, don't just memorize where things go. Understand why they go there. If you get the logic, you can't go wrong. So I'll leave you with this final thought. Imagine you do everything right. Your control account balances perfectly. But when you add up all the individual customer accounts, the number doesn't match. You know there's an error. Where is it? Is the error in your one neat control account summary? Or is it buried somewhere in those hundreds of individual customer accounts? See? That right there shows you the true power of the control account. It tells you that a problem exists and that the problem is in the details, not the summary. That's why they're so brilliant.